Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new episode of NaMoConnect, a hangout with the team of I Support Namo. Our guest tonight is Mr. Sanjay Kaul. Mr. Sanjay Kaul is a very active politician in Delhi. He's a known face on television. He's the executive member and spokesperson of BJP. Sanjay Kaul, by profession, is an advertising and marketing person. Mr. Kaul's foray into public life began founding an advocacy group called People's Action for Citizen Empowerment. People's Action worked in the areas of governance, environment, and electoral reforms. People's Action Group brought together 3,000 resident welfare associations in Delhi to bring down power tariff hike by Sheila Dixit government in 2005. They worked towards the efficiency of auto rickshaw meters in Delhi. They campaigned endlessly towards withdrawal of Blue Line buses and highlighted the now famous CWG country. Very few people know that Mr. Sanjay had also founded a political party called Gurgaon Resident Party, and he was the first person to introduce the system of primaries, a format in the selection of candidates, which was later emulated by Aam Aadmi Party. Mr. Sanjay has so much work in his record that we will take it up as we go along with the hangout. Sanjay, why don't we first begin with a question that I want to ask you? Since you were very active in Delhi elections, do you think the influence of Aam Aadmi Party still persists in the mind of Delhi voters?
Let me put it like this. You see, pockets of influence will exist and continue to exist. The important point is that the mass of support that the Aam Aadmi Party had been able to create around the time of the assembly elections has all but disappeared, partly because of the fact that people have gotten to know them a little better. And since you don't have a record, you can imagine how great you are. But once you've been in office, and the way they basically demeted office, their behavior while they were in office has turned off a lot of people. So fact of the matter is, they may still have pockets of influence, but it's not enough to be able to gain seats. So it's quite clear that basically it's a washout as far as that is concerned. Also, don't forget that at the same time, Narendra Modi's personality is far greater than any of these irritants, so to say. So I expect that in these elections you will see that they will not be able to make an impact.
Should we bring in a participant at this point of time? Do we have Mr. Nipun Malhotra online? Nipun, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Okay. Nipun, you can introduce yourself and ask your question to Mr. Sanjay Kaul.
Yeah, I'm Nipun Malhotra. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm based out of Noida. I have two questions for you, sir. So the first question being that when voted to power, what actions will the BJP take in its first 100 days to regain the investor confidence that has been lost in this country today? And my second question is that will NDA2 continue the disinvestment process which was started by Mr. Arun Shori and NDA1?
All right. Investor confidence has very little to do with 100 days. Fact of the matter is that investor confidence has already started improving, if you have been noticing all around you, on the back of just the idea that we will finally be rid of the UPA and that finally the NDA may be actually in power, and most probably that Mr. Modi will be the Prime Minister. So, and just to break that down further, investor confidence is really a component of how people think about themselves, what they think they are capable of. What the UPA has been able to do is to deplete our sense of confidence in ourselves as business people, as people who basically have entrepreneurial energies and who have a huge reservoir of youth. On the other hand, they have been able to actually exhibit a crazy attitude towards policy making, and with the result that internationally we have become a sort of a laughing stock. Naturally, if you cannot trust the government of the day, money is going to flow out, and that's possibly the most logical thing that happens anywhere in the world. So my view of this is simple. It doesn't take 100 days. It'll be probably the first 10 days or 15 days, because it is an orientation that everybody's looking for. They're looking for signals. The moment that happens, the moment you know, and I think if you noticed recently, Mr. Modi made an emphatic point that we are pressing for continuity of policy. Now that's an important thing as far as business is concerned, because they don't want to deal with a regime that changes its mind on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. So I think that, plus a lot of the anomalies that we have seen, the imbalances, the overspend that we have seen over the last, say, 5-10 years, in the manner that the UPS government has gone literally buying votes, and I say that in inverted commas, has basically depleted resources. The imbalances, there has been no fiscal discipline. All that intends to change, because we have, for the first time, a chief minister and an orientation in the ruling combined, which has a model to back itself. I mean, whatever state you're looking at, if you're looking at Gujarat, of course, being the most prime example, if you're looking at Madhya Pradesh, looking at Chhattisgarh, all of these states are exhibiting a quality of governance that is allowing investors and investment to get ahead. So that is roughly my view of investor confidence and how it can be brought back, and how I expect it will come back soon. And the other question that you asked was with regard to divestment. That's the other thing that I want to talk about, in the sense of what is necessary must be done. It must not be done because it's the done thing. So I mean, I think we will approach this completely from the point of view of necessity. If there is latent value available in such corporates and such companies, which when divested yield much better returns or efficiencies, I think we will do it. So it's not because it has been done before, but because it is required and that's the right thing to do, that I think we will do it. Yes.
Nipun, I hope you got your answer. Should we move on to the next person? The next participant is Vasundhara. Vasundhara, can you hear me? Are you there? Vasundhara, can you mute yourself or unmute yourself? Hello. I think there's a technical problem. Should we?
Hello?
Okay, there she is. There she is. Vasundhara, you can hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, Vasundhara, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. I would like to myself. I would like to give a compliment that you are a very young and handsome politician in a BJP group, and I would like to appreciate your punctuality. Now, myself, Vasundhara from Bombay. I am a group member of I Support NaMo. Also work with 272 plus over here. So during interaction with the people, and especially young people, I have, what is the vision of BJP meeting the expectation of today's youth regarding jobs and entrepreneurship development?
Okay, if I understand you correctly. This is not entirely unrelated to the first question. Fact of the matter is that employment, jobs, these are directly linked also to the economic conditions that exist within a country. And the fact of the matter is that we are today facing a huge shortage of jobs. The fact of the matter is that there is a crisis in employability, and yes, it is a huge challenge also because we have a huge youth, let's say, quantum that needs to be put to work. So fundamentally, I think this requires not just a desire to see that jobs are created, because that's not enough. It requires economic activity that can sustain, that can absorb the youth population that we have. But also with that, you see, it's one of the bigger challenges we have is also employability after, for instance, you pass out of those typical traditional courses that you do. So we have a skill deficit that we need to work on, and that is going to become the next challenge that we have. So we have actually two problems, not just one. Getting people jobs is one, but getting them the right kind of jobs is another. And more importantly, we have to start working in terms of looking at the future generations and planning for them as well. So I think we are looking at 2 or 3 problems at the same time, And I think we will have to invest very greatly in skill development. That has to happen completely post-haste, number one. Number two, we have to start looking at manufacturing in a very real sense, though we are a service powerhouse in many senses, but we need to reinvest in the manufacturing sector, because that's where the largest amount of jobs can be created. I think if you have been following Mr. Modi's speeches and what he's saying, there's a lot of significance in what he's saying these days. You would have noticed that he also emphasized the manufacturing sector as a huge area of deficit, and we need to fix that. So yes, this is a very, very important thing for us. This is completely top order. This is top drawer, and we need to start working on that now. The things that we are going to do, it has to do with economic climate, has to do with manufacturing capacities, it has to do with basically ease of business, it has to do with empowering enterprise, and it has to do with skill development. All these are completely on top priority list as far as we are concerned.
Vasundhara, I hope you got your answer. Sanjay, we have a Twitter question. Twitter question is from somebody called Malhotra Yash. He wants to know, why has Robert Vadra suddenly become an issue in this election?
Well, as an aside, I think the fact of the matter is that as we have come closer to the end of the elections, it's becoming quite clear who's leading the pack and who's basically way behind. And you do realize that this is human nature, that the closer they come to the wall, the more desperate they get. So what has really happened is that the Gandhi family is suddenly seeing for the first time a complete annihilation of all their aspirations and everything that they have planned and worked on. The irony is that the Gandhi family is actually no longer being defended by the Congress anymore. And that is why Mrs. Vadra has had to step in. And it's actually she who started it by defending him, because defending him is defending the indefensible. Having done so, naturally, it has opened up a lot of a lot of questions have come up. Skeletons are sort of tumbling out of cupboards. Earlier, the BJP had restrained itself because it did not want to get into a personal sort of a fight. But fact of the matter is that the Congress, becoming desperate, has started throwing everything that they have into the game, and that has really dropped the standards of, let's say, of discourse in these elections. So I think that it's really and I keep arguing with people. She's not defending Mrs. Vadra is not defending Mr. Vadra. She is defending herself and her family. So in that sense, that is why you hear this a lot of this, and I think you're going to hear a lot more of it from now on as they get more desperate towards the end of elections.
Do you think Robert Vadra should answer something?
Robert Vadra is an extra constitutional authority. He need not answer anything.
There's another question from Twitter, Sanjay. This is from Madhu Singh. She wants to know, why is the entire system, as in the party which are against BJP, got together and started targeting Modi. Today, the TMC targeted Modi on his wife, and they also, commented something on what he said in a rally. So you think BJP only gets accused of being personal, and these other parties are kind of not accused of being personal with Mr. Modi?
Yeah, well, because we are all BJP supporters, we tend to feel more strongly about this. We tend to feel that we are the greater victims. But fact of the matter is, this is war as far as we are concerned. And when you fight, somebody is going to breach the rules. And this is linked to the earlier question that you asked me. So in many ways, the more desperate everybody gets, the more standards drop. The TMC reaction has to do with what happened in Bengal. I mean, the rallies of Mr. Modi, the way he's being received. The fact is that by all analysis, the BJP is making such a strong foray into West Bengal. Nobody imagined that we could do it in this election. And that sort of has created the same sort of frustration and desperation among TMC, because they have just dislodged the communists after so many years. So that's becoming a little difficult for them. We are becoming, for instance, in Bengal, the natural opposition at this point in time for the TMC. So them coming out like this is not surprising. What is surprising is the desperation of Mr. Derek O'Brien when he made those comments that he did yesterday. But I mean, I think if he wants to go down as a street smart person who doesn't know his limits, then too bad. I mean, I think the fact of the matter is that everybody knows who leads the race. Everybody has to work with us, whether they like it or not, today, tomorrow, or day after. It will be the best interest of everybody who holds power in these states to stay on a complementary basis.
Okay, should we bring another participant, Abhilasha Sinha? Okay, Abhilasha Sinha is not here right now. Let's bring in Nandini. Nandini, are you there? Nandini, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you
You
hear me?
can?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can.
Yeah, we can. We can certainly hear you. Abhilasha, introduce yourself. Oh, sorry, Nandini, introduce yourself and put your question.
संजय जी नमस्कार, मैं नंदिनी तिवारी पांडे राष्ट्र सेविका समिति दिल्ली ब्रांच से हूँ और संघ परिवार के होने के नाते मैंने नमो वॉलंटियर के लिए भी काम किया है और मैं वसंत कुंज एरिया में रहती हूँ, तो साउथ दिल्ली का पूरा कार्यभार मैंने देखा था और डोर टू डोर कैंपेनिंग भी की थी और पहली बार मैंने क्लोजली इतना देखा चीज़ों को। तो 2-3 चीज़ें हैं जो मैं आपसे कहना चाहूँगी, क्योंकि इन लोकसभा चुनाव के बाद दिल्ली विधानसभा चुनाव भी आने वाले हैं। बहुत सारे लोगों ने कहा कि उन्होंने आपके लिए वोट किया था लास्ट टाइम, बट दिस टाइम दे आर फॉर श्योर दे आर गोइंग टू वोट फॉर बीजेपी एंड फॉर मोदी जी। बट 2-3 चीज़ें थी उनके दिमाग में कि होता ये है, नॉर्मली गवर्नमेंट्स आती हैं बहुत सारी होप्स के साथ आती है एंड नो डाउट कि मोदी जी से बहुत 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 ज़्यादा आशाएं हैं लोगों को। तो उनका ये कहना था कि ठीक है मोदी जी आ जाएंगे, गवर्नमेंट फॉर्म होगी फॉर श्योर, दे आर गोइंग टू फॉर्म द गवर्नमेंट, बट जो आम लोगों से जुड़ाव है वो नहीं हो पाता। आप शायद समझ रहे होंगे मेरी बात को कि अगर उन्हें जैसे आपको लोगों ने किया था, बिकॉज दे फील कि वो उनके डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन में है। डोर टू डोर कैंपेनिंग इस बार हुई तो उन्हें लगा कि हाँ, जो काम आपने किया था अब बीजेपी भी करती है और बीजेपी से वो लोग कनेक्शन फील कर रहे थे। तो मैं ये चाहती हूँ कि चुनाव के बाद आम लोगों की शिकायतें आराम से पहुँच सके सरकार तक, या जो आम लोगों की समस्याएं हैं, चाहे वो सेफ्टी को लेके हो, वुमेन सेफ्टी को लेके हो, लोकल इश्यूज हो, डेवलपमेंट हो, उनके लिए हम क्या प्लान कर रहे हैं। और दूसरी चीज़, जो छोटे छोटे करके बहुत ज़्यादा मतभेद हो जाते हैं, उनसे निपटने के लिए हमारी क्या रणनीति रहेगी।
जी हाँ, आप ठीक कह रही हैं और बिल्कुल वाजिब रेस्पॉन्सेज भी हैं, लोगों के होने भी चाहिए। जब हम पार्टी में नहीं थे तो हमारी भी उम्मीद हर पार्टी से यही हुआ करती थी, तो इसमें कोई गलत बात भी नहीं है। और अगर इसमें कहीं कमी रह गई है, जैसा कि आपने उदाहरण दिया कि आम आदमी पार्टी लोग एक रैपो बना पाए थे, और क्या हम लोग इस तरह से इलेक्शन के बाद हमारा भी क्या राब्ता और रिश्ता रहेगा। लेकिन मुझे लगता है 2 बातें समझने जैसी हैं। केवल लोगों से मिलना मिलाना रहे और उनका काम ना हो तो वो मिलना व्यर्थ है, इस पे तो आप मानेंगे। तो कहीं ना कहीं हमको ये पहले देखना है कि जो लोग चाहते हैं क्या हम डिलीवर कर पाते हैं। कई बार जैसा आप कह रहे हैं कि उसमें कम्युनिकेशन रहना चाहिए, लोगों से मिलना मिलाना रहना चाहिए, उनका कनेक्शन रहना चाहिए, ये तो जाहिर सी बातें हैं और ये इसलिए भी जरूरी है क्योंकि हमारा जो पॉलिटिकल तंत्र है वो केवल एमपी तक नहीं सीमित रहता है। एमपी के बाद एक एमएलए है और एमएलए के बाद काउंसलर्स हैं और उसके बाद पॉलिटिकल वर्कर्स हैं। तो हमारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशनली जो पिरामिड है वो तो चारों तरफ और फैली भी है और 24 घंटे काम भी करती है। मगर ये बात सही है कि अगर इलेक्शन के बाद इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स का नाता टूट जाए तो मुझे लगता है सबसे पहले तो उसका खामियाजा इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव भरेगा। तो इसमें अपने आप में एक इंटरनल करेक्शन होता है। कोई भी एमपी, एमएलए या कोई भी काउंसलर अगर अपने कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में अपने कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट्स के साथ, अपने इलेक्टर्स, अपने वोटर्स के साथ कम्युनिकेशन न रखे, उनसे रिश्ते न रखे और उनकी सहूलियत या उनके काम न करे, तो अपने आप के लिए बेसिकली अगले इलेक्शन में हार की तैयारी कर रहा होता है। तो मुझे लगता है कि इंटरनल कनेक्शन मैकेनिज्म हमारे यहाँ भी एग्जिस्ट करता है। सच तो ये है कि क्योंकि हम कुछ सालों से और दिल्ली में खासतौर से 15 सालों से सत्ता में नहीं है, तो ये शंका, ये शुबा और खासतौर से जो आम आदमी पार्टी ने फैलाई कि ये पार्टी भी वैसी है, वो पार्टी भी वैसी है, हम बिल्कुल भिन्न है, हमें ट्राई करके देख लो। उनको भी ट्राई करके देख लिया, आपने भी यही पाया कि आदमी आदमी होता है, सब लोग वैसे ही होते हैं जैसे दूसरे होते हैं। फर्क इसमें होता है कि आपका इंटेंशन क्या है, आप करना क्या चाहते हैं। बीजेपी से ये उम्मीद की जा सकती है कि हमारी सिंसेरिटी के ऊपर कोई सवाल उठा ना सके। ये मैं भी आपको बताता हूं और आप अगर बीजेपी में हैं या कार्यकर्ता हैं तो आपको भी आगे जाकर यही कहना है सबको। आपके बारे में कम से कम ये कहें कि अगर नंदिनी कुछ कहेगी तो वो काम होगा, और ठीक उसी तरह से अगर संजय कौल आपसे कह रहे हैं कि कुछ होगा तो वो जरूर होगा, कम से कम मेहनत और कोशिश जरूर रहेगी।
जी, धन्यवाद।
नंदिनी, आपको अब कुछ और पूछना है?
जी नहीं, धन्यवाद।
नंदिनी, आपको कुछ और पूछना है?
जी नहीं, धन्यवाद।
संजय, जनरली आपने जैसा, थैंक यू, थैंक यू नंदिनी। संजय जी, आपने जैसे बताया कि आप जो कहते हैं और लोगों को विश्वास होना चाहिए कि वो आप करके दिखाएंगे। आपका जो पीपल्स एक्शन ग्रुप जब से आपने बनाया और उन्होंने बहुत एरियाज में काम किया, स्पेशली ये जो पब्लिक पार्टिसिपेशन मॉडल आपने किया था रेसिडेंट वार्ड कमिटीज के साथ में, क्या आप थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में बताएंगे, क्योंकि ये दिल्ली के लिए बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट चैप्टर है।
That's correct. नहीं, ऑल्सो क्योंकि अभी नंदिनी जो सवाल पूछा था उसका एक पहलू तो हमने डिस्कस किया, उसका दूसरा पहलू ये है कि एक तो पॉलिटिकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होती है, वो अपना काम करती है, दूसरी तरफ तो वो यूं मानिए कि वो सप्लाई का काम करती है, लोग मांगते हैं और उसका काम होता है वो देना। तो जब तक मांग पूरी तरह से कंसोलिडेटेड ना हो या वो भी लोग जो मांग रहे हैं ऑर्गेनाइज ना हो तो वो कमजोर पड़ते हैं। तो हमने ये रेजिडेंट वार्ड कमेटी का जो मैकेनिज्म था वो इसलिए था कि एक कंसल्टेटिव कमेटी बननी चाहिए जहां पर लोग ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट्स जो है, जैसे क्योंकि दिल्ली में रेजिडेंट वेलफेयर एसोसिएशन हर जगह है, दिल्ली में ही नहीं है सारे शहरों में है, गांव में पंचायत है, तो एक नेचुरल फॉर्मेशन होती है कि जो अपने डिमांड को सेट करते हैं। वरना अगर आप इस तरह के ऑर्गेनाइज तरीके से चीजें नहीं मांगेंगी तो केओस हो जाता है। या आपने भी कुछ मांगा, मैंने भी कुछ मांगा, इस टेबल पे आसपास में 4-5 लोग हैं, सभी ने अलग अलग चीजें मांगी तो कंसेंसस नहीं होता है। कंसेंसस नहीं होगा तो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी पे कोई दबाव नहीं बन सकता है। ये बात ध्यान रखनी पड़ेगी, और सबको मैं उनसे भी कह रहा हूं जो वोट देते हैं और उनसे भी कह रहा हूं जो वोट लेते हैं, ये रिश्ता जो है ये तनाव का रिश्ता है और ये तनाव रहना चाहिए। अगर मेरा वोटर मुझसे खुश है और आश्वस्त रहेगा कि मैं हर समय करूंगा तो मैं उसे धोखा भी दे सकता हूं। कई लोग मुझसे कहते हैं कि भाई आप हर समय इस टेंशन में क्यों इन्वेस्ट करते हैं? ये टेंशन इस इंजन का ईंधन है, और गवर्नेंस कभी भी कंप्लीट नहीं हो सकती है जब तक ये तनाव न रहे। तो ठीक इस तरह से जिस तरह से पॉलिटिकल पार्टी ऑर्गेनाइज होती है, ठीक उसी तरह से सिविल सोसाइटी को ऑर्गेनाइज होने की आवश्यकता है। रेजिडेंट वार्ड कमेटी एक सीधा सा तरीका था कि एक इलाके में जितने आरडब्ल्यूएस हैं उनका एक नुमाइंदा उस कमेटी का एक मेंबर होगा, वहां का काउंसलर उस कमेटी का चेयरपर्सन होगा, और 2 ही शर्तें थी कि वो महीने में केवल एक बार मिलेंगे, और इसमें यह नहीं लिखा कि वो क्या कहेंगे क्या नहीं करेंगे। हम लोकतंत्र को मौका नहीं दे रहे हैं, आप लोकतंत्र को मौका दीजिए, लोगों में इतनी मैच्योरिटी है कि वो लोकतंत्र को इस्तेमाल कर पाएंगे। तो केवल एक ही बात थी कि आप महीने में एक बार मिलेंगे, और मगर जब मिलेंगे तो जो आप तय करेंगे वो लिखित में मिनट होके मेयर के ऑफिस में जाएगा, और केवल इतना और छोड़ दिया। हमारा एक्सपेरिमेंट इतना गजब का रहा कि हमने देखा कि जिन काउंसलर्स ने इन लोगों के साथ काम किया, ये आंकड़े थे कि 75% वो काउंसलर 2 बार इलेक्शन जीते। और कहीं पर हमने ये भी देखा कि काउंसलर ने जहां कोऑपरेट नहीं किया, स्थिति ये भी थी कि उन काउंसलर को टिकट तक नहीं मिला। तो एक इंटरनल करेक्टिव मैकेनिज्म है, और इसके दोनों छोर ये हैं कि एक पॉलिटिकल एस्टैब्लिशमेंट जो करे सो करे, सिविल सोसाइटी भी अपना रोल अदा करती है, और जब ये दोनों मिलकर चलती हैं सचमुच में गवर्नेंस तभी ठीक हो सकती है।
आपने संजय सीएजी ऑडिट करवाने की बात कही थी प्राइवेट पावर कंपनी से 2011 में, तो ऐसा कैसे हुआ कि आपने एक इतनी बड़ी चीज इनिशिएट की और उसका श्रेय सारा अरविंद केजरीवाल ने ले लिया?
वो क्या है कि राजनीति 2 किस्म की होती है, एक श्रेय लेने की राजनीति होती है और एक डिलीवरी की राजनीति होती है। क्योंकि अगर आपको कुछ ठोस चीजें करनी होती हैं उसके लिए ढिंढोरा पीटने की आवश्यकता नहीं थी। सीएजी का जो ऑडिट था, मजे की ये बात भी है कि मीडिया भी और थोड़ा सा मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन का भी एक माहौल बन चुका था। सीएजी का ऑडिट तो 2011 में जब हमने दिल्ली के 17 विधानसभाओं में चल के 23 दिन 400 किलोमीटर चल के हर विधायक से वो साइन कराया था पिटीशन, उसके 27 दिन के अंदर अंदर सीएजी का ऑडिट का ऑर्डर पास हो चुका था। और मैं इसलिए नहीं कह रहा हूं क्योंकि वो कांग्रेस को हमने दबाव डाल के सीएम चीफ मिनिस्टर शीला दीक्षित ने वो ऑर्डर कैबिनेट मीटिंग में पास कर दिया, और वो कागजात कोर्ट में पेश हुए जब मैं कोर्ट में था, और क्योंकि श्री प्रशांत भूषण हमारे लॉयर थे, वो भी एक कहानी अलग है, तो ये कागजात वहां पे आए तो इट्स ऑन रिकॉर्ड। ऐसा नहीं है कि अरविंद केजरीवाल को नहीं मालूम है कि ऑलरेडी पास हो चुका था, लेकिन जिसको झूठ की आदत है, जो मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन पे पलते हैं, वो वही करते हैं। तो हमारा काम ये नहीं था, हमारा ये काम था कि सीएजी का ऑडिट होना चाहिए, वो ऑलरेडी पास हो चुका था, उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करना था और वो इम्प्लीमेंट होना था। फिर उसके बाद इन्होंने अपना क्या कहते हैं, इन्होंने जब आम आदमी पार्टी ने अपनी पार्टी बनाई और वो सारा का सारा जब मोमेंटम खराब कर दिया था, तो उस दौरान में, उस कंफ्यूजन में ये बात रह गई थी, मगर ये हम ऑलरेडी कर चुके हैं। और सच तो ये है कि श्रेय तो दिल्ली सरकार को जाता है, कांग्रेस की माफ कीजिएगा, लेकिन सच यही है।
So did Aam Aadmi Party convener invite you in his own party since you'd already done so much work for them?
नहीं, वो तो that's a matter of record. There was a headlines today का एक प्रोग्राम चल रहा था, तो उस पे वो बैठे थे मेरे साथ। तो उन्होंने, आप क्योंकि हम लोग एनजीओ सेक्टर से हैं, सभी के सभी एक दूसरे को जानते हैं, तो उनसे पहले भी कुछ 2 लोग आए थे, हमसे मिलने की कोशिश कर रहे थे कि आप आइए, जुड़िए। लेकिन मेरा उनसे सिर्फ ये कहना था, देखिए अगर मुझे यही करना था तो मैंने आपसे 10 साल पहले यही काम शुरू किया था। हमने भी एक्सपेरिमेंट सबसे पहले इंक्यूबेट किया था, गुड़गांव के सारे आरडब्ल्यूएस को मिलाकर गुड़गांव रेजिडेंस पार्टी फ्लोट करी थी, बाकायदा प्राइमरीज हुई थी, एक कैंडिडेट इलेक्ट हुआ था। लेकिन उसका एक्सपीरियंस मुझे ये बताता था कि आपको वेशभूषा और रंग ढंग से नहीं, आपको चाहिए कि एक एग्जिस्टिंग प्लेटफॉर्म को आप रिवाइटलाइज कीजिए। हर रीइन्वेंटिंग द व्हील की आवश्यकता नहीं होती, हर चीज को दोबारा स्टार्ट करने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। दिल्ली में या देश में पार्टियों की कमी नहीं है, एफिशिएंट पार्टियों की कमी है, या कि ऐसी पार्टियों की कमी है जो कि सचमुच में किसी आधार पर चलती हो। तो एक और पार्टी पैदा करना तो बहुत आसान था, हमने भी किया। लेकिन हमने देखा ये है कि जब तक कि स्टेइंग पावर ना हो, जब तक डेप्थ ना हो, जब तक कि आइडियोलॉजिकल फाउंडेशन स्ट्रांग ना हो, तो आप नहीं चल सकते। हवा के एक झोंके से जिसकी आइडियोलॉजी बदलने लग जाए, हवा के एक झोंके से जो लोग आए, कल की बात आज, आज की बात कल हो जाए, तो वो कंसिस्टेंसी जब ना हो, तो वो आप कुछ नया काम नहीं कर सकते हैं। और जब तक तंत्र, और भूलिएगा मत कि एक एग्जिस्टिंग पार्टी जैसे बीजेपी है, उसका तंत्र इतना बड़ा हुआ है कि सचमुच में अगर वेल इंटेंशनड आदमी एट द हेल्म ऑफ अफेयर्स आता है तो वो गजब ढा सकता है। और ठीक आपके सामने यही घट रहा है। नरेंद्र मोदी जी जब इस सारे तंत्र को इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, जिस तरह से उसको आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं, वो आपके सामने प्रत्यक्ष रूप से आ रहा है।
संजय, आपने क्योंकि आप दिल्ली में रहे हैं और यहाँ पे बहुत काम किया है, आपको लगता है कि यहाँ का जो यूथ जो अरविंद केजरीवाल के साथ जुड़ गया था, वो आप जैसे व्यक्ति उनको वापस बीजेपी में अट्रैक्ट कर सकते हैं?
देखिए, अगर फालतू के काम करके कुछ उल्टी सीधी टोपियां पहन के करना हो तो मुझसे नहीं होगा, मैं आपसे अभी माफी मांग लेता हूँ। लेकिन अगर सचमुच में कोई समझदार लोग हैं, देखो युवाओं में जोश होता है, उनको एक रिबेलियस स्ट्रीक होता है, उनको वो चीज पसंद आती है जो रेगुलर नहीं होती है, इसमें कोई नई बात नहीं है। हम सब ने अपने उम्र में किया है, और मैं कौन होता हूँ ये कहने वाला, जब मैं युवा था मैं भी ऐसे ही काम किया करता था। लेकिन देखिए, गवर्नेंस एक बहुत मैच्योर मामला है, लोगों के जान के साथ खेला जा रहा है। अगर आपका रवैया मजाकिया रहा, जैसे आम आदमी पार्टी का लॉ मिनिस्टर ही जाकर जब लोगों के घर में छापे मारने लग जाए और महिलाओं को घर से बाहर निकाल के उनके साथ बदतमीजी करे, तो वो कानून और व्यवस्था कहाँ से बनेगी? अगर दिल्ली का चीफ मिनिस्टर बनने के बाद भी ऑपोजिशन पार्टी की तरह रस्तों पे लेट जाए रात रात को, तो फिर वो कहाँ से गवर्नेंस होगी? तो इस तरह का मजाकिया ढंग, मुझे लगता है अब देखिए हो गया जो कि होना था, अब सबने एक्सपीरियंस कर लिया। मुझे लगता है कि युवा भी अकलमंद है, एक बार ट्राई करेगा, दूसरी बार गलती नहीं करेगा। एक बार की गलती सबको अलाउड होती है, बार बार की गलती बेवकूफी कहलाती है।
मुझे लगता है संजय हम सब एग्री करेंगे आपकी इस बात से। निपुण ने एक और क्वेश्चन पूछने की रिक्वेस्ट की है। निपुण, आर यू ऑनलाइन?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, sir, I would like to ask you that what inspired you to move from civil society to active politics, and what are the biggest challenges you faced when you made that transition?
Okay, good question. So, it's about defining a role for yourself, and you try and do things, and then you see that some of the solutions that you envision are working out, that you actually been able to convert some of the ideas that you had into reality, or that you were able to make a difference to a project that you picked up. For instance, in Delhi, when we took on the power project or the privatization issue, it was the first time that civil society had been able to force the government to take back a 10% power hike. Now, that's never happened before. It never happened later. And it didn't happen with all the drama that Mr. Kejriwal did about climbing stairs and cutting wires or joining wires. So if you want to fix things, then there's a way to do it. If you want to draw attention to yourself, then you do different things. So my experience was that you can fix things. So you have to have strategy, you have to have a sense of sincerity, and you have to have resources. Now, resources doesn't mean money. Resources means people. If you do not have people with you who network with you, who agree with what you're talking, and who basically back you, you're not going to be able to do much. But having done so, I moved step by step above. So I took on one project, then I wanted to take on a bigger project, then I wanted to move on to a bigger project. And the resident ward committee, as far as I was concerned, was the culmination of my civil society activity. I had finally done what I believe was necessary for a political organization as well as a civil organization to work in tandem. Having done that, I wanted to look for a bigger platform, and that would not be available to me in the throes of civil society, because one of the laws of civil society is that it's not a political affiliation. So that was one. The other was that don't forget that I come from a particular background. I am originally from Kashmir, though I was not born there. I was born in UP and Uttarakhand. And it has always riled me how the Congress party has basically dealt with the Kashmir issue per se, and specifically the issue of the Kashmiri Pandits. Now, it's not personal, but I do want to say that I did not see any future for this country with the Congress in command, because their biggest problem in life is they are always negotiating with the Muslims as far as their vote is concerned. And it's a strange contradiction. When you are doing that and you're trying to ensure that you stay in power, then you are not really thinking about the best interest of the country or the people. It's a very simple equation. In my mind, there was complete clarity. So having done that, and I used to be on television all the time. I was basically the third force in Delhi. There used to be the Congress, the BJP, and I used to be the third party representing civil society. And I got to know Dr. Harshvardhan very well. The strange situation that I could have got to know Congress people very well, but the Congress was in power. So as civil society, you always work against the government. You never work for the government. Otherwise, you wouldn't be civil society. You'd be friends, And obviously, we did not have to deal so much with the opposition because we wanted to keep a sort of a neutral stance. But the fact is that the Congress also created the conditions. They thought of me as the enemy, when in fact, I was actually the guy who was making them do the thing they should have done in the first place. So, long story short, I got to know Dr. Harshvardhan, and then the elections were around the corner, and I did want to expand the scope of what I was doing. I figured if I could influence 20,000 people or 2 lakh people, I could influence 20 lakh people. I wanted that sort of role to play, and so that happened. But the more important thing is, once you come into an organization, the laws of the organization hold. So you have to take a back seat for a while, because you have to get absorbed. People have to know you. You can't just walk in and say, hey, I'm the star, so guys make way. It doesn't work like that. So it's a typical organizational setup. It takes time, it requires a lot of patience, some gray hair, but eventually, if you intend to do good work, frankly speaking, there's no better place than this.
Nipun, do you have more questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Tanmay has just joined. Tanmay, can you hear me? Tanmay? No. Okay. We'll. I have to ask you another question. I just wanted to know, since you have been such a, ज़मीन से जुड़ा आदमी, advocacy group चलाते हैं, आप Resident Welfare Association से connected रहते हैं, how did you come to highlight CWG corruption?
Oh, so that's interesting, because I approached the CWG from a completely different standpoint. It was actually the standpoint of wastage, because if you look at Delhi and if you understand how Delhi is being governed, you used to get this very nice sort of warm feeling about the flyovers of Delhi and the wide roads of Delhi. Of course, all built on your and my money. But Sheila Dikshit was able to, and you must give her credit for that part, was able to create the semblance of serenity in Delhi. But fact of the matter was that Delhi actually had a huge underclass, which was completely not there. So, it has 50% of Delhi technically either stays in illegal colonies. Illegal, when we say illegal, it means it's not legally occupied. There's people who occupied it, and then basically there is litigation and stuff like that, or lives in slums. Now, if that is the scenario, then obviously you're not working out well. You're not doing the right thing. It can't possibly be that people in a city in which 1 square foot of land costs, say, 1 crore or some sort of that crazy amount of money in, say, in Khan Market or in Connaught Place, are living in shanties, right across the street. This is not on. So the deal was very simple. When I saw the amount of money that was going to be invested in CWG for 13 days, so I had a very simple argument that for 13 years, nobody has been able to generate 13 megawatts of energy for Delhiites. But you have enough money to basically spend on foreign tourists. I call them tourists in a sarcasm. I understand the importance of sport. But it's not something that we wanted to, at that point in time, sort of spend on. So it began from that. But once we began, and we were the first group, for instance, I remember that, when they started building the MGF Imar, that sports complex, we actually carried out a havan on the banks of the river Yamuna for different reasons. Because we disagreed with the Yamuna being given away at that point in time for constructions like this, when this is actually a river which needs a space, and this is the highest sort of concentration of water seeping down. It's a water reservoir for us. So we were arguing on all those factors. But at the same time, instinctively, we wanted to highlight the housing issue in Delhi, and so that point of time I remember we started a campaign called Pehle Makan Fir Mehman, and that's how the whole thing began. And then of course the whole thing exploded in the face of the Congress.
Okay, there is a question from Facebook. This person, he's just moved to Gurgaon and he's learned that you had a Gurgaon residence party. He wants to know, why didn't you continue with it?
Yeah, good question. So like I said, when I had gone through that experience of actually forming that party with a lot of people out there and stuff like that, I remember that Gurgaon, incidentally, when the elections happened in Gurgaon, we swept all of New Gurgaon at that point in time. But New Gurgaon was just DLF and the new parts of Gurgaon. The moment you came into the villages, we were naturally routed. So fact of the matter is that we realized that you can't have an urban-centric party. And that is what made me understand that India is far too complex. It's not little islands of prosperity where you can have maybe a councillor could have gotten elected, but that you can't have assembly elections of that level because the size is too huge and the disparity is too huge. So that was one. The other was also that we figured that to be able to transmit your message to those areas is going to require a completely different sort of people's, different sort of language, a different sort of grammar completely. And because we were all sort of these the people with backgrounds like ours, public school educated, and people working on these blue chip sort of jobs, there was a complete disconnect with the real stuff that was happening around us. So it became clear to me that you cannot win elections like this. And although fact of the matter is that the Aam Aadmi Party replicated the same model in Delhi, and I argued that you would not be able to make it. You could argue I was a little wrong, but I was eventually right, and they were not able to make it. And as I told you, that these constructions which come up only around ideas such as boutique ideas like parties which are urban-centric don't last long. So you have to look at longevity, you have to look at practicality, you have to also look at the fact that this is going to require like 50 years to do.
Okay, since you are a young politician from BJP, there's this question on Facebook which says, do you think BJP encourages new young blood like you?
Well, I'm evidence. So let's put it like that. The fact of the matter is that BJP is the only party. I remember Mr. Gadkari, when he became president, the first thing he said, I used to put posters. I was an ordinary karyakarta. I used to stick posters, and suddenly I am the president. And let's look at Narendra Bhai Modi. Look at his story, and I don't have to repeat it anymore. The fact of the matter is that the Congress has a very different sort of a DNA. See, somebody asked me one day, why did you not join Congress? I said, okay, let me put it like this. Suppose you are a first-rate genius at what you do, you are whether an engineer, a doctor, whatever. Would you go and work in a company which said to you at the outset, look, however great you are, you can never be the CEO? Okay. That was my problem. So I'm saying, my point is basically that that's an important thing. In the BJP, that doesn't hold. BJP invites everybody, but you have to work your way through the organization. It can't be that you just walk in and step in the seats part and then you became so. Yeah. That doesn't work like that. It's an organization. It's an open culture, but you have to work your way.
Okay, Tanmay wanted to join, but for some reason he could not join us. He had a question. He said, how many seats do you think BJP will win in Delhi, and how badly would AAP fare?
That's a subjective question in the sense of how badly will AAP fare. Is simple. If they lose, they lose. So they're completely lost. But the trends are indicating a complete sweep for Delhi, frankly speaking. And I don't know how much you understand about politics and votes and how they split up. The Aam Aadmi Party had towards the end, as you realize, that once they realized in the assembly election that they had not got a sizable number of Muslim votes, they started doing the absolute typical thing of appeasing and running around Muslim vote and appeasing the Imam and everything else. So there was a factor, and fact of the matter is that the Muslims are reported to vote en bloc. Now, which is what we challenge, and we believe that they have not done so. And if that is true, then which is a good sign, because that means that the Muslims are refusing to be taken for granted, that they don't want to be treated as a vote bank anymore, that the Muslim youth particularly is negotiating, is asking questions, and even if the older generation has misgivings or old ideas about these things, the fact of the matter is that the Muslims are now basically thinking as individuals and not as collective groups. So if that is indeed the case, then the Aam Aadmi Party is absolutely no chance. We expect to sweep the elections 7-0. Also remember that Delhi has had a tradition mostly of 7-0s or 0-7s, And if that is the case, then I don't see what relevance the Aam Aadmi Party will have, at least.
Sanjay, you are a Kashmiri, though you have not lived in Kashmir. How do you see in the long run India solving Kashmir issue?
See, first and foremost, I disagree with the idea that there's something called a Kashmir problem. There is nothing called a Kashmir problem, because if you do not have a Hyderabad problem, then you don't have a Kashmir problem. Either you tell me that you have a Hyderabad problem. So that's one. My point is that the Kashmir problem is the investment of a lot of groups, and it has to do with geopolitical realities. There's a huge amount of investment of politicians from the valley in the Kashmir problem. They have to define it only in terms of a problem. They are never willing to talk about a Kashmir which doesn't have a problem, because if that was the case, then their negotiating ability with Pakistan, with all of the forces, including sometimes in many cases with the Congress, is reduced. I mean, today Kashmir is still governed by a family friend of the Gandhis, and that's the reality. And look at what he's saying today. Look at what Mr. Farooq Abdullah said yesterday, and look at what Mr. Farooq Abdullah's son is saying today, and later what Mr. Farooq Abdullah's grandson will say. My point is that you can't approach a state like, you know, a family fiefdom, and that is why it's completely rotten in there. If you remove these agents, or these agencies, or this outsourced governance has to go. And if you let the people of Kashmir speak for themselves, believe me, there are rational people out there who can talk sense and who understand sense. I was on a flight yesterday, and a young Kashmiri Muslim, the moment he got to know that I'm a Kashmiri, wanted to relate and talk. And he's somebody who studied in India all of his life, and he's moved around. And this is the new young generation, and which is being repeatedly reminded by the Abdullah family or the other parties in Kashmir that this is a Kashmir problem. That, you know, it's a strange situation. You are here, but you are not supposed to be here. So would you like to go to Pakistan? Or would you like to be annexed by China? What are the opportunities? The discourse is completely corroded. And so I'm saying that Kashmir is not a problem. You just have to start talking the right language. You have to start talking to the people. You have to go over the agents of the Congress party, and we'll be in a much better position.
And how do you bring these saner voices together?
They are all there. If you are going to basically scare them away by saying that no, you see, it's a very simple thing. Nobody goes to an uninvited party. And the fact of the matter is that the moderates, the sensible people, the educated, the rationals in Kashmir are not invited to the party, because it is controlled by people who have a vested interest in keeping the Kashmir pot boiling. It's a very simple thing. This is their investment in the future of their children.
Once again, a quote we look at. Okay, Sanjay, since you are looking at Delhi, do you see a possibility of Delhi elections?
Well, finally, there has to be elections, in the sense that, I mean, the assembly is dissolved, and, you know, there's president's rule, and I think this is not a permanent situation. So as soon as the Delhi elections are over, I think we will get into some electioneering mode, and I think we are very keen to see that.
Is BJP prepared for an election in Delhi? Of
course, we are prepared. I mean, we were prepared. The day the results were out, we were prepared for a re-election, and I think you remember Dr. Harshvardhan making a qualified statement that we are ready. So basically, the Congress, which had a problem, and therefore it wanted to impose president's rule, and they did so. But fact of the matter is that, and also frankly speaking, it's the Aam Aadmi Party which you know, on their own divested themselves of a government, and then went and started pleading, why are you not holding elections, man? You know, I mean, it's a very strange sort of a situation. Where my point is simply that the BJP is completely ready. We are also looking forward to the next assembly elections in Delhi, which we expect to also sweep.
Sanjay, you spoke so well. I think there are lots of people on Twitter and Facebook who are following you. Do you have a message for these youngsters?
Well, I'd like to imagine that a youngster is addressing youngsters, but no. But the point is that, you know, you have to understand that the stuff that you're reading, the stuff that you're picking up from the media is not real all the time. And I really want you to actually look at everything from the perspective not of positions, but of inquiry. And if you really look at some of the real questions that are posed that are facing us as a country, you will realize that the BJP is really the only answer we have. And I'm not saying this as a member of the party only. I'm telling you, step outside of your old ideas and old hang-ups and just evaluate the situation. Who is best placed to form the government? The BJP. doesn't it make more sense to invest in the party that is in any case going to win, instead of making it weak so that it cannot take the decision that I would like them to take so that they can change my life? It's a very simple equation. If you understand that, you will step out tonight, you will step out on 30th and on the 7th and on the 12th until the last day of election and remind everybody. It just makes a lot of sense right now to focus on getting BJP the numbers they want to form a strong, stable government, and then pressurizing the same BJP government to do the thing that you and we all as citizens want it to do.
Thank you, Sanjay. It was really nice having a young politician from Delhi on our hangout. You heard his views, you heard how much hard work he has done in the past and how he moved from a advocacy group to a political party and how well he charted out his path. Sanjay, thank you very much for coming here and giving your precious time to us. I think we all enjoyed listening to you, and I hope you will be here again sometimes and explain more things to us.
Thank you so much. The pleasure was all mine.